My name is Paul Shelley, and welcome to TheAstroHistorian. This is a channel dedicated to exploring and explaining the lore of sci-fi and space universes and discussing their impact. Today we'll be looking at the universe of Star Citizen and talking about the personal passion project of the legendary CEO of Crusader Industries, Kelly Kaplan, that of the Spirit series of ships. The Spirit stems from two major events in the history of Crusader Industries, the first being the creation of the industry-defining Genesis Starliner, and the second being the acquisition of Trent Systems by Crusader. Kelly Kaplan started as an intern in Crusader in the early 29th century, who worked her way up to becoming one of the driving creative forces on the Genesis project. Her roll and go technique revolutionized how Crusader made ships, and would help Crusader dominate the spaceflight travel industry to this very day. The basic gist of this technique is that it allows for custom-ordered ships to be manufactured on the same assembly lines as their standard cousins without losing efficiency. Thus, a spaceflight travel company could order the standard Starliners alongside custom-built options at the exact same time, with the added bonus that they all share the same parts, thus streamlining logistics. If you want to learn more about the history of Crusader, I suggest watching the video I did on the complete history of the company in the top right and in the description below. This, as well as a string of disastrous business-minded CEOs, led to the unforeseen ascendance of Kaplan as the CEO of Crusader Industries in 2863. 2 years later, she helped negotiate the purchase of the low-mass gas giant of Stanton II and built the city of Orison out of the latticework of floating platforms built by the UEE Navy. During her tenure, she gave the approval to purchase an engineering firm known as Trent Systems in 2885. They were folded into the teams working on Project Quicksilver, what would eventually become the Mercury Starrunner, in an effort to speed up production. Many Trent System designers struggled to produce work up to Crusader's standards and style. However, one Trent Systems designer, Gabjia Young, thrived in her new environment, much to the lament of the designers of Crusader. Young found her niche in floundering projects, where she would identify strong points of failed projects and flag them for use in other vehicles in order to mitigate the sunk costs. This earned her the nickname of the Harbinger of Doom by Crusader engineers, who knew that if they saw her poking around their offices, their projects were as good as dead. While Young was gaining infamy with the designers of Crusader, Kelly Kaplan was on the verge of quitting her position. By the late 2890s, she had lost her passion for her job and was thinking of stepping down. Before she made that decision, she decided to try and change up her routine, to rekindle her passion by returning to her roots and designing new ideas for ships. At first, this manifested in her personally reviewing new ship design documents and making edits and suggestions. This soon evolved into every spare moment sketching ideas for ship designs, bringing light back into her day. During these frenetic sketch sessions, one particular design kept coming back to her, a ship with long angular fuselage and V-shaped wings. No matter what, she couldn't escape this idea, which became a frustration as she couldn't perfect the idea on her own. One day in 2899, she called the Harbinger of Doom herself to her office to take a crack at the design. Kaplan had grown familiar with Young's work from her reviewing new designs, and knew that she was the perfect person to tackle turning her restless dream into reality. She gave Young one objective. Kaplan said that this ship had to be, quote, emblematic of Crusader, yet with its own unique spirit. With that, the ship was given the working title of Project Backbone, and gave Young free rein to rework the design as she saw fit, under one specific condition. The ship needed to be built on warehoused chassis originally designed for one of the company's retired shuttlecraft lines. Kaplan knew that some members of the company's board believed the ship did not fit with the company's current goals, so she wanted to keep the project within a certain budget after profit margins had tightened due to a rise in security costs and the extremely expensive repairs on several floating platforms of Orison. Young visited the warehouse and carefully inspected the mothballed options. She surprised everyone by choosing one of the oldest chassis, originally made by Seraphim Systems for the Ascension shuttlecraft, To put this in perspective, that was before Auguste Dunlop had even purchased Seraphim Systems and rebranded it as Crusader Industries. Thus, this could have been over 100 years old, if not older. Young preferred the material used, believing it would create a stronger space frame that allowed for more interesting design possibilities. Young took the dimensions of the selected space frame and then went to work on a series of sketches that experimented with the ship's shape language, while maintaining the long, angular fuselage. Kaplan narrowed down the sketches to 2 options, including one with an asymmetrical wing design, and requested full modeling and unique material selections for each. Despite the request coming from her, Kaplan deemed Project Backbone a low priority and made it clear to Jung that her other work should take precedence. In late 2904, Jung finally presented Kaplan with a highly detailed modeling and materials pass on both versions of the ship. Because of earlier cost-conscious decisions, Jung was able to select more expensive, high-quality materials, while still remaining on budget so that she could deliver to Kaplan a high-end executive craft. Kaplan selected the design featuring the asymmetrical wings and authorized Jung to begin building the prototype. Jung personally oversaw most of the build before delegating oversight of the interior to a trusted associate. When the prototype was completed in mid-2905, Jung had reservations about it, believing the asymmetrical wings made the ship look lopsided. When the ship failed its initial jump tunnel test, Jung convinced Kaplan to scrap the asymmetrical wings. Jung did several passes at redesigning the wings, but failed to find a look that satisfied both Kaplan and her. Eventually, the two set aside a day to find a solution together. Their answer was chunkier, more angular wings that brought balance and more heft to the ship's fuselage. The updated prototype was finished in early 2906. Thanks to the redesigned wings and a handful of other fixes, the updated prototype passed its jump tunnel test and all other safety checks with flying colors. Later that year, Kaplan flew the ship, which she cheekily called the Executive One, on its maiden voyage around Orison's platforms. Kaplan loved the ship and proposed bringing it to the commercial market. Yet, for some conservative members of the board, the cost of materials and setting up a production line to make the Ascension space frame was too expensive and out of step with the types of ships Crusader was making at the time: rugged, simple designs. Instead, the ship remained an exclusive and beloved transport of Kaplan for decades, receiving only routine maintenance and periodic updates to the interior. It seems as if the ship was destined to remain just a personal project of Kaplan's until the late 2930s, when falling revenue encouraged Kaplan and Crusader's board of directors to expand their ship lineup. A budget version of the Executive One landed on the list of potential ships, and a design team was assigned to increase passenger space and reduce the overall production cost. This would prove to be a failure, though the team did suggest they could make a cargo and fighter version, with the initial plans being focused on modularity. This focus was likely so that it could take advantage of the roll-and-go technique, which had proven to be a great addition to Crusader's designs in the recent past. The only issue was the massive size 7 gun that was planned for the fighter variant, which was causing problems. Despite the issues with the fighter variant, Kaplan liked the idea and spun it off into its own ship, which would eventually lead to the team-up of Bering and Crusader that we know today as the Ares. The ship was having many issues though, and even its offshoot, the Ares, was beating it in development. It seemed dead in the water until Alonzo Klein, who had worked on the cargo variant, suggested to Kaplan that they could make a bomber variant. Kaplan liked the idea and allowed the team to drop the modularity idea and focus on just the cargo and bombing versions. She also asked if the team could redo the interior of her Executive One while they were designing the variants. She liked the end result so much that she asked them to make a third variant based on their upgrades to her private ship. Soon after, the ship was given the go-ahead to enter the prototype phase. After some delays created by adding the luxury variant so much later in development, the ship was finally finished and was showcased to the Verst in 2952 as the Crusader Spirit, a callback to Kaplan's original design to Jung that the ship should had to capture its own spirit while being uniquely Crusader. The three variants were given the titles of C1, A1, and E1. All of the ships clock in at a length of 46.5 meters, a width of 43.5 meters, and a height of 10 meters. This puts it in the same class as the Freelancer and Cutlass, but much larger, mostly due to its large wings. Those same wings also make this one of the better medium ships for atmosphere though, trading a smaller size for likely better atmospheric flight. All Spirits have 2 beds for the crew, and also all come with 2 size 3 gun mounts on the wings, 2 size 2 nose mounts on size 3 gimbals, a rear remote turret, and 2 size 4 missile racks. The Spirit C1 is the cargo variant of the ship, with a total of 64 SCU of cargo. That cargo is also large enough to carry small vehicles as well inside the pressurized cargo hold. It also swaps out the rear remote turret for a tractor beam to load and offload cargo easier. The Spirit A1 is the bomber variant of the ship, with a capacity of 10 size 5 bombs. Its rear remote turret holds 2 size 2 guns, and its nose mounts are upgraded to size 3 gun mounts, as well as the addition of a size 3 missile mount. The last Spirit is the E1, named after the Executive One, which it was modeled after, and it is the luxury passenger variant. Its interior is decked out with 6 private cubicles, with panoramic viewing windows all along the sides. It also has an escape raft for passengers and crew. The Spirit's long journey from sketch by a legendary CEO and ship designer to full-blown ship has been a long one, but it seems to have found its place in the market. It marks yet another milestone for the aging leader of Crusader Industries, and proves that Crusader can still find new ideas, even from its oldest designs. Time will tell if the Spirit will have the impact of the Genesis, or become an icon like the Hercules, but given its pedigree, I wouldn't be surprised if it carries the spirit of Crusader into the future. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'd like to thank those on screen now for supporting the channel financially. If you want to throw in a few credits, think about becoming a member on YouTube. And if you want a bit more for your contribution, join the Patreon or the Ko-fi. Patreons and Ko-fi members get early, ad-free access to all videos, including exclusive early access to my long-running Complete History of Star Citizen lore series. Check those out now in the top right if you want to know what you're getting. Now, I want to hear your thoughts on the Spirit and any other lore topics in the comments below. And as always, remember, ex Historia, ad Astra.